Okay, I have changed the the session title. Uh, it's the same content, but it's have different point of view. We will speak about it. So first of all, thank you for joining me in early morning. From my side, it's 9 o'clock, so we're starting working day. Welcome to everyone, and again, thank you for joining my session and have the time to listen to me. So why I changed the title, even there is some content and more content that we are going to speak about it, because I always, when I speak about Java, especially for new developers or even experienced developers, when they try to switch different language, like, or it's not like, let's say, like language from perspective of the synthetic sugar of the language, how can I write it to solve some specific problems? And they are get lost in the train that we have Java evolution, which we introduce a lot of features that make literally your life easier. And to cope with the new languages that we have in terms of problems, dedicated like specific design patterns, specific features, enhancement, performance, a lot of stuff. So we will speak about it. My name is Mohamed Taman, and I'm working as a solution architect and Java champion and speaker. So this is my luck to be here joining JCON World with you guys. So you can find, I'm writing a lot about Java also in Java magazine. There is always like a column for me with every Java release. I have to write something like hidden gems, and even not hidden, from language perspective for each version. So you can go and deep dive into the most important enhancement and additions has been done in that version. So when I share my presentation right after the session, but just someone should remind me, and I hope that guy will take some good deed, because he will spread the presentation with the others also if I forget. So the presentation will contain all these kind of, hyperlinks, and whenever you click on it, it will point you to the presentation and also to the article, sorry. And you can reach me anywhere, and just easily you can Google my name and you ask me whatever you want and you get in touch. It would be my pleasure to have you in my social media. So I hope that you are ready. Let's deep dive now. So our agenda for today, I would like to speak about Java history, not Java history, just from full Java history will take a long session just to speak about that. And I would like just to check about one term that always confusing people. What is LTS? I know that you know what is LTS means, but the way that it releases, when, what the period, who's doing that, why we have such things, and who's supporting. Just a small recap about LTS. And also, we would like to check out about like some Java opinionated feature that I see that's the most major one in the feature in the language. And I will provide the articles that covers the APIs, because if I covered everything here, we would not have time, and we'd like to have many hours to cover all of this. So, but I'm going to give you the keys for each one, plus what arrived with each version of Java until Java 21, and you will know what is coming up, and the hidden features I combined, as I told you again and again, in articles. And finally, we will find resources where you can find everything else that I prepared this presentation and all the articles at the end. So first of all, let's have a look about Java history. And just enough, this diagram, uh, excuse me, because it's winter and I caught a cold and I have some pain in my throat. So this is why you will find this ugly voices. So excuse me for this. So starting from early days of Java until Java 9, and one of the most used GDK until today, but literally it's gonna be obsolete soon, and also it's gonna be not used by major companies, and even service provider like AWS just has announced that they will rely on GDK 11 onward, no more GDK support, GDK 8. So we have to migrate. There is no more room to to stay on Java 8, because first of all, we have a lot of like enhancements, and we have a lot of features came up along each version, and plus it becomes very old and they will not maintain it anymore. So you are losing a lot of enhancement, performance, enhancement, and also a new API, security, batches, and also features. So the always like the question, people were complaining like we are very slow, and we are very slow compared to the other languages releases in JDK 8 and 9, and this is why we have adopted the concept of release cadence, and this drives that we have versions each 6 months, as you can see, and this is not going to change. What's going to change is the term of when we deliver the LTS version, which is reliable and convenient for companies to rely on LTS, because they will take more support for this. So you can see that in JDK 9, for example, it came and goes to production and introduced 91 just main feature, which is the work that need a lot of effort to be done. But behind the scene, there is a lot of changes happen and enhancement that is not announced, that you have to dig deep about. So it's too much, but it takes so long time, like from 2014 to 2017 is 3 years, and you're waiting for the new enhancement, and the engineers is working on it. This is a big problem, because also some features or some APIs long waited, and there is no collaboration with the community to understand their needs and what we can do. And does this kind of piece of code make you happy? I would like to get your feedback. And this is something really amazing. And we have seen it in the way that we are introducing the APIs and features as a preview features or incubator APIs. For this purpose, we just trying to collect feedback as much as we can and change accordingly. And this is why when we standardize a feature, it means that it's based on the community feedback and the engineers also feedback and the people who are using the language. So it's mutual collaboration between the community and developers and the engineers working on the JDK. It's not just only some set of people sitting behind the room and delivering something to you, and you find it like it's not convenient and there is some problems we can enhance. So we shorten the feedback period and also take it into consideration to reach the community, which make it really beautiful. And also you can see that there is a minimum versions of like features coming in each version based on the release. Sometimes if you have fewer versions, mean there is a lot of enhancements in the other areas like the GVM, API, security, and things, because also it's effort, maintainability, removal, deprecation, as we want to see. So this is why LTS made it successful until today, which is the last JDK 21, which is the commercial, we receive commercial support, and it's an LTS. So we have 3 LTSs, which is JDK 11, JDK 17, and you can find the big gap in the 2 LTS here, and then shorten the gap between these 2 LTS from 3 years to 2 years, and this decision has been made last year. Why? Because we need to deliver for you more frequently stable versions that you can rely on and receiving all the enhancement and features as early as possible so you can move forward. Enough Java history, and let's see like what I mean by LTS. As you know, LTS is a long-term support, and it's a marketing concept related to a specific vendor JDK. This is very important, related to a specific vendor JDK. It means like when Oracle announced, or the guys announced, like we will have 2 years now, because it's a change, as I told you, from 3 to 2. It doesn't mean that each and single vendor has to deliver its LTS covering only 2 years. Could be more than this. For example, who's supporting each vendor decide how and when to ship. This is definitely independent. So Oracle just announced their plans, and also Amazon could announce their plans. You have, vendors like Azure is delivering every 6 months, even support for the feature-based releases. They give you support, medium support term. They have long support term. They could have more than 2, 3, 4, 5 years. This is based on their, work. So you can check then the vendors, how the support is working with them, what is LTS, expansion of the years that they are going to support you. And even if you would like to use some, intermediate releases, like we call it feature releases, then they have support. So you can even move forward from release to release easily, because if there is problems, you will have support and you can move forward to the next release until you jump into your LTS. Or sometimes for R&D, it's very important to cope with the latest changes in the GDK, even open GDK, until doing your proof of concept or R&D, then you can decide which version you can use. And for how long? Usually from 6 to 8 years for LTS to stay. And what this brings to us as a development, we need to understand that LTS always introduce bug fixes covered for a long time, performance improvement always out there, new features coming. Whenever there is a new features coming to the API, it will be introduced also the new version. Vulnerabilities fixed, because we have an era of cybersecurity and we have a lot of problems security related to security. This is why it has roadmap for batching and enhancing security. And finally, it's a commercial support. You can pay for it and you will get it. So this is all about LTS, and this is what I want to tell you about. So let's deep dive to our main presentation. So let's check out from first Java 11 to 17 as a milestone from one LTS to the second LTS, but I'm not going to introduce every and single features. I'm going to give you an overview and speak about each version, what it's introduced, and the main concept behind this, and some great features that really I see changing the way that we are developing. If you have looked, from 9 to 10, 10 was the first release cadence after 10 and after 9, and it was like we are trying to test, it's a trial. Then Java 11 was the first LTS release with the new release cadence. So as all of us knows about Java 11, introduced some major features. As you can see, it's enhancement, not only the language, like we have, small features like local variable syntax for Lambda parameters. We will see why we have introduced this a small feature, because this was based on the feedback of the community and specifically solve a specific use case. And the beauty here that, it's a short term, 6 months, I can fix this problem, I can ship it to you. You don't have to wait for a long time in order to receive such corner cases that will make your life much easier. So definitely JVM has a bigger impact, because the language, actually, the Java is not about the language, the syntax that we write. Java mainly is about the JVM. JVM is the core of the language, and this is why all the languages, polyglot languages, relies on JVM, like Kotlin, Scala, Ruby, all of these kind of languages, Groovy, they are JVM based, So the JVM received the most important, vital, how to say, like, look and consideration, because this is where the innovation and performance and memory and garbage collection has been introduced to cover many big wide cases that we have in the market. Plus the language, definitely, if we love Java, we have to cope with the new languages. So JVM, as you can see, has received like dynamic class file, constants. We have new, garbage collection, which is called Epsilon. Epsilon, actually, garbage collection is no operation garbage collector. This is one of the most funny one, to be honest. And we have ZGC, and you will see over the time it receives a lot of enhancement, low overhead heap profiling, NIST-based access control, improvement for architecture for 60-bit based processors, calculations. And let me get back to Epsilon, because this is a garbage collection that does nothing, does not do any collection for the memory. And if you think about it, like, why you have to have something like this? Because JVM require, garbage collection to work. And why I need such garbage collection that doesn't do any collection for memory or reclamation? Because in low profile embedded systems and low memory based resources applications, we need to tweak our data and memory on our own, because we don't need to run overhead garbage collection. So this garbage collection exists just to make JVM runs smoothly, and it will not do any collection. It will let you control your memory by your hand and see how you expanding the memory to fail or you succeed with your low resource based devices. So this is, I just wanted to give a hint. I will not explain everything. And plus the JVM enhancement, as you can see, bunch of enhancement. You have tools. We have something called something that allow us to launch single source code program. I think that you heard about it. We have flight recorder, and also the most visible API enhancement that HTTP client has been introduced and finalized here. We have Unicode support, and you'll find that Unicode support always exists wherever we go with each version. We have a lot of security and algorithms for security and cryptographic algorithms has been introduced. Also, you can find that we have introduced TLS 1.3 in favor to deprecation for old versions that is not applicable anymore. The other side also, in Java, we are always deprecating. And then what? What we're going to do with deprecation? It stays there for long and people still able to use the APIs. We just gave warnings. And since Java 11, literally, it becomes the cleaner and the vacuum cleaner for all the deprecated and removed stuff. Things need to be removed. We are removing, actually. The first thing has been removed is Java EE modules and Corba modules, because they are not related to the JDK anymore. So you find some of them, you can just include it, like JAXP and JAX binding APIs. You can just include it in your Maven file. It's maintained externally, and some others move to Jakarta EE module that's supported there. So we don't need to support something that is not, doesn't have meaning anymore in the JDK. And then we start to deprecate for removal, not just deprecation. I gave you warning. Now we are deprecating it, and we will remove it almost in the next two version or 3 versions. So this is what has been also introduced, deprecation with market for removal. So we deprecated National JavaScript engine in favor of GraalVM, deprecate also the packaging, very old packaging tool for Java to have a single source installation, in favor to introduce a new packaging tool, as we're going to see. So this is just introduction for how the features come in each version. You can see there is a lot of areas. Those are the most obvious one. This is why they have Java enhancement proposal JEPs. And there is, if you go to the release notes or my articles, which I read at the release notes, and they're trying to give you example based on that, you'll find a lot of enhancement and the API like string class, the files classes, a lot of different APIs has been introduced also to support, and many more features about security and algorithm removal. Those are the main obvious things that need a lot of work to be done. And all this is why we call it features. It doesn't mean that dozens of files has been touched to introduce more bug fixes, enhancement, and new features, but is not mentioned as a Java enhancement proposal, JIPs. So if we can see some feature, as I told you, why this is important, because it's confusing for some people, that when we work with Lambda, we can mention the variable type like string A, string B, and then we can do this, or we can omit all the data type and it will be inferred automatically. And also we can use var, right? And for me, if I don't want to, it's for me similar to A and B, and and also for string. But this is if you can have very long declaration of, but why? Why if I can omit it? Why I need var here? Because we need to have a data type when we have annotations, and this is very important. So it will force you, if we don't allow var, you will have to write down the whole declaration of the data type. And this is why we just included var in order. When you have annotations, we just added var to make it easy for you. And this is very, very, very tiny corner case. But as you can see, it's also solve a specific problem for declaration. So this is the local variable for lambda expression. Let's get back to launching single file source code program. What does it mean? It means that if I have a single file and I want to run it, I want to run it in a specific and special way. The old way of running a hello world program like this, and yes, I'm saying hello Java developers or whatever you are, or architects. So we should compile it to .class and then run that .class. So we have two steps here, as you can see. With the new features, we just only can run Java with Java immediately like this. And this is a new mode for the Java launcher that we can run Java with Java. What does it bring? It brings a lot of features. Like you can always like run. There is no intermediate compilation. The compilation goes here in memory. Excuse me. And this is why it's just, one single file. So the compilation it happens in memory. You can use whatever you want from the Java language modules, APIs, but you cannot import external files or libraries in order to include it, because there is no class path here. And also you can include many functions as you can, or source files inside the same file, and you can run it immediately. And this is much more easier for even the students to try Java, something that you can just write and run without compilation and worry about it. But I love this feature because if we combine it with shebang notation, we will have a program. I want to write a program to list my directories in a specific depth. And if I give the directory of this kind of like subdirectories and files, but indefinitely, if I want to have it on bash file, I will write it in bash. It's operating system specific. But what's beautiful is that if I have included this shebang notation you see at the first beginning of the source code, which is exclamation mark and #/user bin, where is the Java exist, and then you have to mention the source, which is minimum -11, and then you can use whatever is like 12, 13, 14, until now 21. Then you can use the features, write your program, name it whatever you want, and let's then save this file to be named directory dir list without any extension, and then mark it as executable with this line, changing the mode +X dir list. But someone could ask me like, we are now violating the naming conventions. The class name has to be the same like the file name. No, don't worry. It's not important anymore, because this is gonna be also run Java with Java, but using shebang. And then if you'd like to run it now, we can just dir list, and it will be similar to bash file, but instead of writing it in bash or any specific language for the operating system or scripting, I'm writing it in Java. What does it mean? I do this when I do like write my black box testing. So I don't have to write very big, bash file in order to run it from the command line, or when I just launch my service and I want to make a smoke test, I have to write bash file. I use my capabilities writing Java, and I can run it to bash, and any operating system will just see it as a normal executable file without anything. This is why, because we have just only Java, and then it's the launch of single source file that I can do here, and testing my applications using my Java capabilities. I combined with HTTP client, because HTTP client, a new module, gave me opportunity to connect with all like REST APIs, making requests, getting responses, asynchronous and synchronous, and also I can do WebSocket, and it supports the latest like TLS versions. You have a bunch of configuration from security, proxy, everything that you can imagine, and it's built inside the GDK. So, and it's very simple. You don't have to memorize a lot of API, just for API, which with HTTP client, and you can have a new HTTP client. Then you have the request that you can make a new request based on it, and then you can just send the request and expect what is the body. Then you can apply, I would like to get the response, and then accept the response, and make it the output for yourself, or whatever you want to target it or assign it to anything, and then you can call join, because we are calling this API asynchronously. If it's async, it's normally client.send only, and then you will receive the body and you can do whatever you want. And this means like wait until the body is going to be received and continue after this line normally working, and when it's received, please processing it. So this is how it's asynchronously work. And if I want to do WebSocket, you have to implement the WebSocket listener with your favorite for on open, on close, on text, and all of this kind of listener methods. And then you can create it with HTTP client, but a new WebSocket builder, and you do the same. You can build a sync, you create your WebSocket. In this case, it's WS WebSocket or WSS, and then you can send the request and start receiving, because it will be open until you close the session. It's pretty simple. I combine this API inside my single source file, and I do all my testing because I don't need any external libraries anymore, or my my test cases inside my normal JUnit test cases. Those are the main features that I wanted to speak about. So since Java 11, we wanted to introduce something to have evaluation. The previous feature was incubator, actually, in Java 9 and 11 and 10, and the incubator for APIs. Preview is for the features. So means that I want to just give you opportunity to have a feature that you can try, but behind the flag. So I have to use -- enable preview in order to use this feature. If I'm not using this flag, I will not be able to use this feature. So the first introduction was the switch expressions. We have again and again received a lot of enhancement in Java in the JVM. And you can see that Shenandoah, a low boss time garbage collection, has been introduced as experimental. It wasn't finalized. And switch expression first preview, and you can see that G1GC, the default garbage collection, has received more enhancements. And the API here, we have JVM constant API and micro bench, micro benchmarking suite has been open sourced for the community, and this is very important API. It meant to test the performance of the algorithms or the APIs that we have. It's not about testing the system. It's not like JMeter. If you have 2 algorithms or 3 for mathematical or for queries or something, and you would like to test the performance between them, and they are doing the same thing or in different platform or architecture, you can use this benchmarking to give you the results, and you can choose accordingly which one is relevant for each architecture and operating system. In Java 13, again, switch expressions has been receiving a second preview, because there is a lot of changes and also feedback, and we will see it. Text block has been introduced and along the way, and also JVM has introduced a little bit enhancement, and we start working on implementing the legacy socket APIs and the whole API related to IO communication. Why? Preparation for Project Loom. And we will speak about Project Loom. You see this as a small feature because it was like the point that we are trying to cope with the release cadence, introducing new features to become stable with preview features and give you opportunity to have testing, get feedback, enhancing. And those are the main features, yes, but as I told you, there is a bunch of APIs has been introduced behind the scene. And if I like Java 14 came, you say like, okay, we don't receive any more feedback. Switch expression is going to be standard, means that you don't have to use the flag in order to use it. Records has been introduced, text block received second preview, and then we started to introduce pattern matching for instance of the JVM received again, and also the GC has been goes to production for macOS and Windows, and this was nice deprecation. As you can see, we start deprecating a lot of old garbage collection and flags, and also Solaris and Spark ports has been deprecated for removal, no more maintenance, and we removed the package tooling in order in favor to use the new package tooling first incubator, as you can see here, and also the API for foreign memory access API has been introduced, which is very important features. So we have, speaking about switch expression, has been introduced finally in JDK 16 and 14, sorry, and this is the old way of doing the switch expression which has been derived from C++. And you can see if you just forget one break here, you will have a problem, and big problem. And it was lengthy, it was error prone, not easy to debug, not easy to read, and this is why it was ugly and it has to have enhancement. So we introduced this way, which with Lambda, with error token. And in this case, okay, it's the same like previous, and we say, okay, we have a switch, and once you find the case, what is after error token is assignment or return value. So you don't need to do like break, which means if I reach this case or this case or case, after that, I'm done. No more fail over or fail through, as you have seen. So we remove the break. And we have, okay, what if I were just, it looks to me like I'm creating here a like string, and then I'm trying to assign the value and trying to return it. So why not to make it as an expression? So it gives much more meaning and it's easy for reading. So we can convert this one into this one. So I don't need any, a variable anymore. I will switch over the values, and once I match the case, I will, return this value. After the error token here will be returned. This is why we don't need return. The return is here, and immediately it will return the switch value from here. So it's more concise and more logical. Let's see another examples of switch expression enhancement. Like if we need multiple cases, the old way we listed like this, if it's 0, it do this and break. And then if it's 1, 3, like odd numbers, print make kind equal to odd. And then this also ugly case like before. We can enhance it to have it multi-comma separated version, which is very nice and more concise and short. And definitely we don't need break anymore. So, and as you can see, also I use it an assignment directly to a variable, and the variable will infer the data type based on the switch leg cases. And also here, if you would like to use the notation of a colon, you can use yield, not break anymore. It was break, and the community has been complaining about this. It doesn't make sense, break value. So it's much better to have yield value. So the complaint has been listened to, and this is why we take it into consideration, and we removed break, which we introduced in Java 13, and in 14 replace it with yield. And this is a great example of how the community feedback really affect the change of the feature based on what you want. There is a small also enhancement happens. It's not mentioned, but it's very, very important for us because we are every day and single day and in our life, we deal with null pointer exceptions. So before Java 14, if you have something like this, a.p equal 99, and something happens, you will receive an exception, null pointer exception at program main at line 5. And this is line 5. But it's easy to guess because I know that if A is null, then I will have this kind of accessibility null pointer exception. So it's easy to guess. But if I have nested values like this, A, B, C, I need to debug in order to know which one is null, either A, B, or C. But when I enable the flag, there is a flag I have to enable, which is already also by default has been enabled since Java 15. This flag, if you're using Java 14, you have to allow this show code details in exception message. So you will receive something like this null pointer exception because I cannot read the field C because A.B is null, which means B is null at the line number 5. So it's very helpful. I encourage you to use it because now you will have it, because this flag is being also introduced very default for the GDK since GDK 11. 15 came with text block standardization. Sealed classes has been introduced. Another second preview for pattern matching and second preview for records. We have received enhancement for the GC Shenandoah also. Both of them goes to production. APIs has been enhanced for security, and for foreign memory API get another, tuned incubator. Internal APIs re-implemented the legacy datagram sockets, as I told you, were in favor of preparation for Project Loom, and a lot of deprecations and removal. So in Java 15, one of the nicest thing that we were like struggling always, it's alignment and refinement of the text. And if we have multi-lines, so we have to have a new line, we have to have a plus, we have to make sure that the indentation and everything, which was really, really hard to maintain and ugly to read. So we were trying to avoid this. And now in Java 15, as you know, if you have 3 codes, this is called text block, and you just maintain, you don't need to have a new line. It will span, also taking care of indentation, and it works like charm. This is very important when I write Spring data or data. So I have a query, I can just, align it perfectly. If I'm writing JSON format or HTML or XML, I don't need, especially with XML or HTML, because it has like braces and open and closed and everything like this. It would be more ugly if I adding new line and pluses. It would be very hard to read. So I appreciate text blocks so much, and I use it everywhere that I can use. And finally, its underline is a string. So 16 bring pattern matching to life for us. For instance of records also has been introduced for us. We have some warnings for the value-based classes. This is very important to have it. Static members. So this is why, because value-based, something like optional, something like wrapper classes, they are value-based. So they are wrapper for value. So why you have to synchronize it? Finally, it has internally one value. It doesn't do anything in its nature. It's just a wrapper. To use it in collections, to use it, so you don't have to synchronize it anymore. Let's treat it as a primitive data types. So this is why you will receive values. You don't create it anymore with a new instance like integer equal new integer. No, you can use integer dot value of. If you start using the constructor, you will receive warning from the compiler that this is going to be deprecated and you cannot use it because it's a value-based classes, and we will just treat it as a primitive data type later on. So there is no way to create an instance of that class. So I just wanted to mention it here. Sealed classes has received tuned preview for enhancement to work with records. Bunch, as you can see, of GVM. ZGC has introduced. Alpine Linux has been ported for us. This is a great addition that we have a version of the Alpine version, which for containerization is very important. We have received also Windows a port for architecture 64-bit, which was widely used. So we need to have Java more widely available. So this has been introduced. The packaging tool finally has been introduced. Some migration happens to make Open GDK available for everyone on the GitHub, repositories, not in old repositories, Miracle, like before. So, and also to follow the latest development practice that we have. So you can visit OpenGDK on GitHub and you can understand what is going on currently. So Vector API has been introduced. Unix domain socket channels has been introduced for more performance. Foreign linker API has been introduced along. This is going to be replacement for old native access API, GNI. And foreign memory, actually, it's just for accessing memory of the heap. So both of those functions are going to be merged. Those APIs or JEPs going to merge later on, starting from Java 17, to have the same alignment and working together. So you can access native API and also can make use of the of heap memory to read files wherever it is, and you don't need to increase your GVM even memory size to read these files, especially for big data and streaming and processing. You can read it off the heap in external memory, access whatever the language that you want, C++ or whatever it is, bring this into heap memory, do the calculation, get the result at the end without affecting your current application running, and you don't have to increase the memory. This is very, very good for computational processing on cloud-based systems also. So let's see some lovely, things here. All of us, like, we're singing about records everywhere. And let me just check the time. Okay. So we have records, and that records just, if you would like to have something called like X and Y, and we need to write it like this, we have a lot of cumbersome, but now Java allows us to write records, to have it by reducing this old ceremony, we can just have it like this. And all of this ceremony has been created for us by default by the GVM. So we have two constructors here, canonical constructor, if you would like to do some checks and reassignment. If we just need to do checks, we have compact constructor, and just this is, you don't need to explicitly, mention the X and Y, and you just here for checking. And also record has received that you can have it as a local inside the memory, inside the function, in order to do some intermediate computation. So you don't need to have it as a single source in favor to maintain it. So just inside the method, you can declare it locally, and you can use it in your Lambda streaming, and that's it. Functional programming. Pattern matching, as you can see, this is very like to make such a cases. If we have a lot of casting based on the pattern, we don't need this anymore. So this could be easily like checking if O is instance of this instance class or this class, please, and return true. First one, please cast it implicitly and assign it to CIS. Then I can use CIS immediately without any further casting. And also it could be combined. If this line is really running, I will have this string inside string, and I can do more property checking. Then I will do the work after that. So if we have the equal method in this way, it will be reduced to be this way. So it's more concise and more definitely, readable than before. So in Java 17, we have received also sealed classes, pattern matching for switch, and then some GVM deprecation and removal. And this way, let's speak about sealed classes. Sealed classes, in short, it's allow me to have this concept of like open for extension, closed for modification. So I can extend, I can control who, instead of using the, access modifiers to govern who can access what, and to restrict the use of superclasses and subclasses. It's now more concise that we have sealed classes, and nobody can extend anything except that I allow you. If you have a shape class here and you have permitting all of this, and then define this as final, and those kind of like, sealed means extend shape, and sealed because I need also to permit these two more, and I provide specifically some implementations. But for you as a developer, I only open for you non-sealed weird shape that you can do whatever you want, but you cannot touch the other classes that I have implemented. So sealed classes also work amazingly with records, because records implicitly final. So if I have public final classes like this for some algebraic expression, I can replace all of this with record, and it will be more significant. This is how I use the language features in order to overcome such problems. So both of them, sealed classes and records, is algebraic data types that we can think about. The packaging tool, this is a very easy, and it will introduce for us like MSI and AXE on Windows, and this kind of extension on macOS and DIP and RPM. The only with single line that you can write it down like this. And based on the operating system, it will generate the final packaging for you. And you can even change the type using this flag and specifying which main class to introduce. So this was the most important parts of the Java 17. And let's quickly see from 18 to 18. It has just, the most important, as I can see, that UTF by default. And UTF by default here means that if we writing a code that read files or write files on Mac OS or Linux, by default it will use UTF-8 as the encoding. And if you try to read it in Windows, which use different encoding, you will get this rubbish. Why? Because there is different. You have to take care of all of this. Since Java 17 onward, 18 especially, you don't have to do any kind of thing because everything will fail to UTF-8. So you don't need to worry about this kind of, conversion anymore when you write files and, from any operating system to any operating system, because the default for all the IO operation will be UTF-8. And we have a simple web server now. You can just, it's called JWeb server. You can run it if you have static file, you want to test it. You can just run it and it'll provide you a basic, hosting server. It's not for production, it's just for you to test your files, and it will listen to localhost on port 8000. And code snippet, this is great addition for documentation. And before, you use declaration and fragments and everything, which is cumbersome. And now you just can use a snippet and you write really code or point to a specific code in file, and it will always change based on your changes, which make your code in documentation not obsolete anymore, and it will validate it. So at the end, when you generate Java doc, you will find this code with lovely copy here, and it's readable more than before. So 19 introduced record pattern for switch as a second incubation, not so much feature, JVM enhancement. 20 also have some, second preview for the same features, and introduced also a lot of incubator for the old features in Java 20. By the way, Java 19 is the first version to introduce virtual thread and structured concurrency, which is project room, in favor to have it finally in JDK 21. So in JDK 21, we received a lot of things. This is the final things. We have record pattern finally introduced, pattern matching, and all of these features. We have sequence collection, foreign function, and memory API has been receiving third preview. Virtual thread has become production ready. And some more JVM enhancement and deprecation. Let's wrap up with the amazing feature that we have. We have sequence collection, which means that I can reach with a new method the collection. I can add at the beginning of the collection, at the end of the collection, get first element, get last element, remove first, remove last, and for sorted set and map, I can have, linked hash set. I can have reversed. For maps, I can reverse. I can have sequenced key sets, so you can have them as sequence or value, and entry set. I can put first, put last, first entry, so I can traverse at the beginning and at the end, and I convert it to sequence. So for example, if you get used to get the variables at the before, like list.iterator.next, the first one and the last entry, you will have to get it like this way. Now, okay, now we have easier access using this way. So it's more, demand to have sequence collection. So I recommend you to read about it. That it will make your life much more easier than before for reversing specifically. Pattern matching, that we have, if we have a record like this, and before Java 11, Java 21, we can write code like this: if O instance of position B, and then I can, or else if, then I can use this variable, and I have to use b.x, b.y in order to access this position. Now, I don't have to do this. I can O instance of this pattern, and then I can access X and Y directly. This is one enhancement, and also for switch is the same. So you don't have to do b.x.y, and now you can do the pattern for in the case like this, and you just directly access X and Y. And this is very helpful if you have nested, records. For example, you have path, and path have positions A, from, and to, and you'd like to access, you would write it like this, and then b.form, from.x, all of these kind of cumbersome, declarations. But now you can just have it like this, position, from, and to, and you directly access it, their Y and X's. And even you can have it in Java 20 like this. You can have all these kind of method matching, and you just x1, y1, x2, y2. You can go further if you want. So this is like, if you have hierarchy like this, and I want to check this hierarchy, I can write it like this. If case path, which is, previously have these positions, and path pattern have this position and positions, then I can access it like this, as you can see. And this is like a pattern matching for switch with nested record pattern. Without record pattern, in order to use the previous also this, I have to make a case and with comparison, like if it case P, and when the p.form instance of this, and I have to access it like this. This is very lengthy, and thank you for the switch and pattern. I can write this hierarchy and the previous code much easier. Also here, you can see else if an instance of, I can have all of this variable. Here, I don't need to do all this kind of checking. Then I can use when easily and do our checks with pattern matching. And even case position X and Y, I don't need to have else if. I can use the same in switch. String templates, one of the most important and a lovely addition. So easily, previously we need to concatenate text like this, either using, plus or format or formatted. And then with string template, I can use str, and then I can mention directly the variables inside and do calculations and do mathematical operation, calling methods, and it's more secure. And even I can do, multi-line, and I can do also calling and, commenting. And more reliably, if I'm writing like JSON like this, using text block also combination, I can directly access everything, and I can compose it more reliably and easier than before, and in a beautiful way. Last two things, we have introduced a name pattern and variables. So imagine that we are using catching exception, but we don't use E, and doing lambda computation, I don't use K. Why have to give names and worry about bad names or nice names? I can just use underscore. This is why we deprecated to use a give warning in Java 9. And then you don't worry about this. This is called a named variable. And also, if you have here pattern like this, and I'm just using X, in this way, I can use, underscore here to not give name because I don't use it. This is called unnamed pattern variables. Or I even can remove the whole declaration int and X and Y, and I can just use underscore. And finally, if I have something like this for switch, like byte, all of them referring to the same output, and the names here doesn't have any meaning, I can use underscore, but still those are lengthy. I can just compact it to be like byte, short, whatever it is. Don't care about the names. Please print this. If it's float and double, print this. So it's very, very nicely and beautifully. Final thing, this is the way that we used to write Java classes main entry point. And now we just can use it like this. Literally, you don't have to have all these declarations, and it will run. And you don't have to have the ceremony for public, static, and arguments if you don't use it, but you just, the bare minimum is void main, and it will, run your application. Even you don't need to have a class declaration. You can use unnamed classes. You can declare variables, call another functions, access them without. This is, we brought it for students to learn about Java more and more, and give you also a way that you can use the language and try features without the ceremony of the, creating a small program. So by reaching here, I have reached it. This is all the resources that I'm going to share with you. And I would like to say thank you very much for your listening. I hope you find it useful. And I'm open for any questions if you would like to have.